Mario Kart 64. Okay, so here's a funny fact. Back when this game came out, it received mostly positive scores, except from major website GameSpot, who gave it a 6.4, with the main tagline of the review saying that even with all its bells and whistles, Mario Kart 64 is very likely to disappoint you after about a week. A week, huh? Try 22 years and counting there, buddy boy. As of this video, you can still find tournaments that were recently held that even had a freaking play-by-play narrator.
Kyle out to a slightly here. That makes it over the jump.
Also, I find it funny that the main redeeming quality he points out is its bells and whistles, when by today's Mario Kart standards, this game is extremely bare bones and has still managed to endure. Needless to say, this reviewer missed the mark, and I feel it necessary to say just leave the guy alone. I'm sure he's had this review brought up countless times. So what makes this game so lovable to this day? Well, I mean, Mario Kart is huge, that's why. This game is so well loved that I can talk to people who never even really played video games, but the one game they love is Mario Kart. It wasn't the first Mario Kart, but you could argue it's the first one that really kick-started the game turning into the cultural phenomenon that it is. While the game Super Mario Kart that came before it is a great game in its own right, I mean, I already made a video about how awesome that game is, some people find it to be a more technical racer and therefore less accessible. In that game, collecting coins and drifting were super important and you couldn't lean on the items as much. In Mario Kart 64, they really powered up the effect of the items and made them way more of a factor. I mean, you still need to be able to race well, but how things play out with the items is a huge wild card in every race. And in my opinion, what makes every race so exciting because so many crazy things could happen. And jumping from last to first in the final lap is very much a possibility. This made the game more accessible in a lot of ways. I mean, with items playing such a huge factor, even the most unskilled racer always had a chance if they just get the right items to keep them in it. The game promotes this as well, by increasing the likelihood of getting better items if you're doing poorly. So if you're behind, you always still have a chance, and if you're ahead, you always gotta watch your butt. Fair? Not really, but it makes the races more exciting because everybody's position constantly fluctuates. But let's think about this for a second. As much as the players who are in the lead might complain that it's unfair, the players in a worse position get all the good items, it does keep things more interesting for them as well. I mean, if you just dominate a race and are way out in the lead with nobody having any chance of catching you, it can be kind of boring. On the flip side, just being way behind in a race with no chance of catching up isn't very exciting either. Plus, there's all sorts of little tricks that more experienced players can use to gain an edge if they need it. For example, if you run over a banana, you can hit the brakes temporarily to prevent yourself from spinning out. Also, you can gain a boost by sliding and rocking the analog stick back and forth. But the biggest thing has gotta be the shortcuts you can take. There's one on Rainbow Road that's pretty well known, but the one I always remember is on this beach stage here, where you have to boost up this ramp while keeping almost perfectly straight in order to make it through. Going for this was a little risky because it kind of screwed you up if you missed it, but was oh so satisfying if you could make it. I think something else this game deserves a lot of credit for is popularizing 4-player local multiplayer. Try saying that 5 times fast. In other words, playing a game all in the same room with people you actually know. Sure, there were 4-player games before Mario Kart 64, but none that were nearly as prominent, and the Nintendo 64 was the first console to have 4 controller ports built into the console. This made playing with 4 or even just 3 players a lot more accessible, and let's be honest, it was the first time a lot of people ever played multiplayer with that many people. And what's more fun than playing a game with a bunch of people all in the same room? Not much, I'll tell you that. As much as playing games online is a good idea, I miss the days when local multiplayer was the main way to do it, and Mario Kart 64 is one of the most nostalgic games for a lot of us when it comes to our memories of that. Although to be fair, Nintendo has always tried to keep this sort of thing around. Okay, we gotta talk about the battle mode as well. Not really a good way for me to show this one, so I'll ask that you just humor me. I know that not everybody plays the battle modes in Mario Kart, but there's definitely people who really love it and some who like it even more than the racing. This iteration of Mario Kart has some pretty memorable battle courses, with a handful of them being brought back in later Mario Kart games. And when it comes to the later games, while they really made some improvements over this game, this is still perfectly playable and the one I'll always have a soft spot for. And with that, I'd like to ask everybody specifically, which Mario Kart have you had the most fun memories with? Not which game you think is objectively the best, but which game you had the most fun with. I feel like a lot of people are going to say Double Dash, but we'll see. So leave your answer in the comments, and I will see ya in the next video. Oh, and also, who could forget this?